Welcome. My name is Heather Heiler, and I've been in the healthcare industry for 24 years now. And the last 12 of those years have been in different, varying leadership roles within nursing specifically. So, first off, I want to thank everyone for joining me today as I present to you a leadership book review of If Disney Ran Your Hospital, 9.5 Things You Would Do Differently by Fred Lee. A little bit about Fred Lee. He began his career as a teacher and then later on in healthcare marketing in Florida, where his wife was actually the director of nurses for about 10 years. While working in healthcare marketing, he won several national awards for innovative approaches to patient satisfaction and loyalty. He developed a nationally acclaimed guest relations program, later recruited by the Disney University and worked as a cast member. And that is where he got to really know the Disney way. His Disney's attention to detail, hiring right from the get-go, on stage behavior as well as off stage behavior, the behind the scenes behavior that still needs to be going on, as well as walk the talk, proper scripting and verbiages to use. And an example of that is, especially in the healthcare industry, instead of referring to patients as patients or customers, coming up with that term that everyone uses across the board, that they are our guests. And so guests would be the scripting that they would use when referring to patients or customers. He helped develop and facilitate the Disney approach to quality service for the healthcare industry. Because after his stint in Disney, he went back into the healthcare industry, but yet then finally in the last of his career, he returned to a life of reflection and teaching, as he proclaims. And through those teachings, he does speeches, leadership for different hospitals and facilities. As far as the purpose of this book, overall, when I read the book, I feel like the whole book is about culture. He talks of when going to a job, he is joining a culture. He's not getting a job, but yet he is joining a culture. And that's a really great mindset to have when taking on a new job. He had stated in his book an approach to clinical practices by focusing on ways of thinking rather than prescribing actions to implement. And then the other thing that I would say, as far as his purpose, was he wants the reader to shift their way that they think. And just real briefly, if you review his chapter titles, you will see where it is a completely different way of thinking than most leadership books or teachings and articles will go. Chapter 1, it says redefining who the competition is and focusing on what cannot be measured. The part about what cannot be measured really captures my attention because he focuses on the patient satisfaction surveys, such as Press Ganey. Many facilities use different ones, but Press Ganey seems to be a very well-known patient satisfaction surveyor. And there's different things on there about, like, was the staff nice to you? Was your room clean? And people would score that from a 1 to 5, 5 being the greatest score. And he thinks that we should focus more on the things that the patients say and write outside of that survey, such as the nurses were all kind to me. I felt very cared for at this organization. Those kinds of nice little attributes that they are giving. That's the things that we really need to be looking at to determine, like, how is our culture going? How are things doing here? Chapter 2 is make courtesy more than efficiency. Sorry. And when it comes to that to me again is backwards thinking to what I've always had learned before. I come from a lean background, and lean is about improving efficiencies that will make the patient's experience better. It's always about the patient, whatever you do to standardize process, that kind of thing. But his way of thinking is the courtesy should be coming first over the efficiency. As regard to patient satisfaction as fool's gold, again, that goes back to those surveys and that looking for those words of affirmation that we are doing the right thing through we are caring, we are kind, nurturing. Those are some of those top things that get written down or said about them. I know at my organization, I hear a lot of times all the nurses were great and wonderful. Even housekeeping was kind to me when they came in and cleaned my room. My room was always clean, those kinds of things, which is really, really great. And then it goes on and on throughout all of his chapters, as you can see there. The main target audience for this book is hospital managers. And in fact, he says so early on in the book that this book was written in regard to the main focus being hospital managers. But with that, he also had indicated this is a really good read for staff at all levels within the healthcare team. And we need to really hone in on that, because it's not just those that are on the front lines at the patient bedside. We have a lot of silent team members that are behind the scenes doing things to make things happen for us. We have the billing and PFS staff members, health information, all of them. So this is really great because, again, when we're talking about an organization's culture, it is not just at the top, it is the entire facility of staff members that work there. And then additionally, I would like to add in that this would be a great read even for new nurses or nursing students, even because those nursing students come into our facilities. They are doing clinicals and they are learning from our culture on how to act and respond and treat people. And I think that this book could really benefit them as well. As far as strengths and weaknesses go, the real strengths that speak to me mostly in this book is how it challenges a person to just think differently. Much differently than before. You turn negative thoughts or experiences into positives. I know that how I perceived what was being said in the book, like if you have a patient complaint, take that complaint as a gift that you can then learn from to help improve the next experience or prevent this from happening to the next person or even that person for if and when they would return. And additionally, as far as strengths go, it promotes experience over satisfaction. So when we're talking about that, instead of the verbiage patient satisfaction and going back to those satisfaction surveys, but just overall patient satisfaction, we really need to focus on the experience, the patient experience. And I really do like how that brings out a different perspective of that whole situation with it's more than just satisfaction. It is their start to finish experience that we want and desire to be good for everyone. And then additionally, it outlines everyday desired behaviors that people should do, kind of like what he was when he was working with Disney, the offstage and onstage behaviors. So the behaviors that are not seen in the most forward in the front lines of things, but again, back hallways where patients aren't seeing us or anything, or but how we treat one another. As far as weaknesses go, I could get a sense that this book would create some skepticism. I know for me, as an example, the section about reward and recognition, the book talks about not rewarding or recognizing those things that people have done really well. That is completely different than any of the trainings that I have been through or readings that I have done. I had always learned that you reward and recognize publicly, and of course you coach privately, but it talked about how that reward and recognition can create a sense of cynicism between a group of people. And we don't want to demotivate those that are doing well, but not maybe getting these extra special rewards and recognitions. And then additionally, with healthcare being a data-driven world, I kind of felt like the book implied that hospitals should measure the unmeasurable. So with that goes back to, are they really saying that we should stop doing patient satisfaction surveys and just go towards the unnoticed, maybe the things that we don't measure every time a patient gives us that compliment of being caring or kind. So that one's just a little bit, I think that for the most part, what we need to really focus on is maybe both. I think there needs to be room for both. Because the satisfaction surveys still give us information on how well we are doing. So, and then there was a part in the book where it said that the hospital's primary customer is the physician. and I look at that as a weakness in the mentality of that thinking. For me, I guess I do see where they're coming from as far as without physicians, we don't have patients. Because they are the physician's patients. They're not the hospital's patients, I guess. I just kind of struggle with that. I feel that, again, I come from that background of really team focused, that we need those housekeepers, we need those dietary aides, we need every single person in that facility to make things run correctly, or it's the whole culture again. I just feel like the patients are everyone's patients. And, having been in nursing for many years, years ago, you used to hear the terms, well, that's not my patient, from one nurse to another. We've gotten away from that culture, at least in where I have been working in the last several years, that every single patient is our patients, and they're not specifically one person or another. So as far as objectives of this book, I really felt like it did meet its objectives. It wanted to have more of a change of culture, or a change in thinking to help your culture and through the leadership within an organization. He concluded that hospitals need to provide an experience, not just a product or a service. Again, to me, that is going back to culture. And then he goes on, as it is this experience and its consistency, substance, and quality, which is the point of variance between competing services and aids in a competitive marketplace. Again, this all speaks culture to me, and change behavior, and it is a really good book for just thinking differently. It's kind of like thinking outside of the box, looking at things in a different direction. And then a quote from Fred Lee, which I really like. I would describe the perfect work environment as finding an unsurpassed level of joy in hard work with good friends, doing something important for someone else who cannot do it themselves. That is just very well said. And finally, I would recommend this book, even if there are things that I still have trouble grasping. I would definitely recommend this book because of the way that it really makes you think. It makes you think differently, think in a way that you never have really thought before. So if Disney ran your hospital, um, were implemented in all hospitals across the United States, I think that it would be an absolutely amazing phenomenon. It is an incredible, thought-provoking book that definitely challenges the way that we have always thought before and the way that we deliver care. It is definitely something that will open up your mind to see things else that could be possible. And again, like I said, you may not agree entirely with all of his views, but there's still something in those views that just, it really does compel the reader to think differently, think outside of the box, and it can create change in just a different manner. And finally, at the end, there is the references.